Here's the scenario. You get product photography, small catalog photography, and the client tells you you've got this background that they want you to shoot on because it matches everything else they've done. So you're shooting along, and we're fine, and all of a sudden you get to a product and you go, oh my God, how is this product going to work on this background because of its unique lighting issues? I specifically picked something that's like a nightmare for us to light, and that's a metal bowl. This would be like a fruit bowl, but it's a nice high-end little silver bowl, and the client wants this shot on the gray background. Well, you say to yourself, you say to your client too, gee, could we shoot this on a white background because of the way white reflects? It's going to make the bowl look better. No, sorry, you have to shoot this thing on the gray background. So, you know, yes, you could probably shoot it on a white background maybe and then strip the thing out, and then you don't have to deal with the shadows, things like that. Instead, if you shoot it in the pieces that you need, you're going to be able to get exactly the right kind of shot. So I started out, we're using the tilt shift lens. Let's go ahead and get this thing sort of zeroed out for the shot. We're back to a very standard position here. We're using, it's tethered to the computer. In the Canon software, we've got it set for a manual exposure. We've been doing different types of white balancing. On this one, we're going to leave it on just straightforward flash, and we're going to shoot the color checker passport by X-Rite, and we'll use that for getting our perfect color. And we are, of course, tethered, so we'll be able to see each image. Let me bring up let's just take a quick shot and see what we have before we even start playing around with our lighting issues. I'll take a shot here, bring the image in, and we'll see it and see how we're doing. Okay, let me go ahead and just get that straightened up on screen a little bit before we start. That looks pretty good. And I'm thinking depth of field wise, we're probably okay. We're just going to do it. It's a pretty much standard. No matter how we tilt the lens, it's still going to have the same depth of field issue. So we're looking pretty good as a normal shot. I have the light positioned overhead, tilted forward. It's going to give us fall off. The clients like fall off and brings the product forward. It makes you kind of concentrate on that. Very, very simple background. We're just shooting on gray paper, but it's a silver bowl, and it basically looks like a gray bowl sitting on a gray background. That's not going to be acceptable. We don't want to reinvent the wheel. We don't want to make too much extra work for ourselves, but at the same time, we don't want to just make it pretty good. We want to make it as good as we can. You know, pretty good, yeah, it really is not. When you're trying to keep your clients, pretty good is not what you want. You want as good as possible. So I can see there's a lot of issues. It's basically gray on the inside, it's gray on the outside. We're not getting anything. It's a sort of a lighting nightmare. So what are we going to do? We shoot, of course, a straightforward shot just so we have one perfect shot. Now that we've recentered it, I want to make sure I'm happy with the overall exposure. If I needed to, we could pull it up in Adobe Camera Raw, take a look at it, but I can tell we're doing it. That's really just fine for the exposure. Now we're going to shoot different parts. I need to get some chrome. This has to look chrome. So I've taken a piece of just regular typewriter paper. Let's go ahead and go into live video, and we can see it on the screen as we're going along. And we'll switch over to tungsten light. So we can see what we're having. You can see literally on the screen as I bring this guy in here, you'll be able to see, oh, yeah, that's what that bowl is supposed to look like. Now, when we cut that back out and put that on the gray background, that's going to work really nicely. It's not quite covering quite enough, so we'll take a couple more pieces of paper, and we'll just bring it in around the sides here. I'll just sort of stick it underneath it. I want to minimize the seams as much as possible, so I'll probably just put it under there and do the same thing on the other side. So forth. So now, if we look at the shot here, we've got a pretty good shot. It looks like we've got a few thumbprints on there. We're going to go ahead and clean that bowl up a little bit. We'll get a little moisture on there. Now we're probably going to have to go ahead and take that first shot over. Now that I put those white cards on it, I tell you, you can really see the fingerprints. So we'll put that in there. We'll definitely want to shoot that one shot over because it won't be pin registered anymore. Or you say pin registered, it's an old term we use because of the days in the darkroom. But we want to make sure that it's in the same exact position so we can, all these images will perfectly work themselves back. Let's go ahead and put that back down again. That's much better. We'll take one shot. Since we've already got the cards in place, we'll shoot that one first. Looks like we're centered pretty good. Come over this way just a little bit. And we'll shoot that one first. So this will be our main shot. Specifically, I'm looking all across in here, making sure that I got a nice, clean, chrome, then we can use a little burning and dodging to throw a little direction in there. I've got a side light coming in here. We don't always want to make the backlight do all the work. We want to help it along by coming in with a side light, and we're probably going to need a little bit of a fill card. So we'll bring in a little white fill card. And let's see here. How that's going to work right about in here. Now that blocks your view, but I'm just going to see what that does. Right there, it brings in a lot of light. We're fine. Let's just get a quick shot. I only need that for one shot. Let's take that shot. This will really only be for the front side of this photograph. This is just the area that's going to lean up here. We don't worry about the background, don't worry about the inside. Although we are getting some nice light on the inside as well. So let's just hope for the best here. We'll get a shot, take it out of live video, and we'll take our first shot. We'll consider this the first shot now. Okay, now very overexposed all of a sudden. All this extra white paper just knocked my exposure all over the place. So I think what I'm going to have to do is literally drop down at least another third or 2/3. Let's take another shot here. You want to make sure there's some white texture in here. That's much better. That's much better. We need to go ahead and look at that in Adobe Camera Raw. So we bring up the bridge. We take that last shot we just did, do a Command R to bring it up in Adobe Camera Raw from within the bridge. And I want to double check to see what these numbers are in the front, because I don't want these numbers here. We're reading in the 224, 225, all that's great. It means that it's a white that actually holds the detail. Works. That's exactly what we're looking for. We can be even a little bit higher. I can actually go in, but I'd rather be just a touch low, and then you can see right here, we're starting to peak here. I could always move my exposure up a little bit higher if we needed it. Boom, I'm actually going way too far here, but you can see how if we're only going to move it up that much, we're pretty close. I'd rather stay just on the underside of being right there. Now we want to expose it as bright as possible without being overexposed, but with chrome especially, I always sort of come back about a third just because I want to make sure it holds the texture of the metal. Same thing like we did with golf clubs or anything metallic that's round. We want to make sure that that texture's there. So let's go back to our shot. We're happy with that overall shot. Right there at f32, so it's 1/100th, f32, got plenty of depth of field. Let's go ahead and pull. We no longer need these cards in the front. Let's go ahead and take our straightforward shot, carefully removing everything. And a lot of times, I know this, I usually shoot the shot with the cards first, like I'm doing right now, because you take a chance on actually bumping the bowl by adding the cards in. So I would rather leave the cards in for the first shot, then pull it away. It's easier to pull it away without disturbing anything. Now I take another shot. It's probably going to be a little bit darker, but that's okay because let's just see what it does. If it's a little too dark, actually for the background, and no, we need our fill card though. Let's put our fill card in. We can see already it's dark on this side. Let's just get that fill card in. Watch the difference when I hit that new shot. Fill card comes in. Opens it up. That's a better lighting overall. You got a nice soft shadow, and it actually has a little light. You get the specular highlight from the softbox and a little bit of card. Now, we definitely want to get something for white balance, so we're going to use the color checker because we're going to use this shot amongst all the others. I'll put that in here and make sure that I can see all the parts that I need to see here. Not quite. Don't want to move the shot too much. That'll give me what I need. I'm just using this for color balance. We've already have a custom profile for strobe, but this allows me to at least see my gray patch, which is the darker gray, and if I need to warm it up or cool it down, I've got my other patches right here to do that. I'm keeping it sort of on the shade part so it's not overly blasted by the light. So that's one we'll use later back when we get into Photoshop and cut these pieces together. So we have our white, we have the white front covered, we have the straightforward ball covered. Oh, the inside of the bowl, not acceptable whatsoever. What am I going to do? I'm going to do as many shots as I need to get chrome lit up all across the board. So as I come around, every time I put this card in a new spot, first I'll just do it obvious places without touching the bowl. If I touch the bowl, the game's over. Can't do it, so I got to be very careful. And what I'm looking for now is to see that I'm getting more chrome in different more white in different places. I'm getting some in here. I'm actually going to move it back in here as much as possible. I'm going to come forward. And I'm not worried about how bright it is as long as I have good clean white, because I can always brighten it up a little bit. And that's not so wonderful there. We're going to come around in here, add some more. Got to make sure my arm isn't reflected. Actually, make sure my arm isn't reflected. I'll hold it down in here. And I'm just looking as I go across. I know I'm good here. I know now I have a nice piece across here. And we'll do one more like that. And now, to make sure that we have it, we'll take one piece of white paper, a smaller one, and I'm going to go around on the inside of the bowl and make sure that that is put anywhere I need to put it. I'm going to shape it a little bit to fit. I'm going to cut off the round corner here so it doesn't minimizes the curve. All right. I'll come in here like so, shoot another image. Actually, let's go to the live view for a second so you can kind of see what that does, and I'll move it around. Let's go back to live view for a second. And I'm just going to leave it on tungsten. Don't worry about the color. I'm just looking at the information. You can see as I move that around to different places, the areas that it's actually, if I move it over here, I'm just getting this part of the image over in here. As I come around to different places, I'm getting more and more white coverage. So what I want to do is cover as many areas as I can possibly cover without being in the shot. So I'm literally going to just go all the way around the whole thing. So we'll start about in here and work our way around, and then we'll be able to take several of these images together and take little teeny parses of that and brush that white. I know it seems like a lot of work, but you're going to be able to get the most control over that reflectivity if we do it this way. So let's do it. And actually, it really isn't a lot of work if you think about it, because every shot is already pin registered. If you have to path it out, one path is good for every single shot. I can drag the path from shot to shot to shot to shot and drag the image over. So you're not really, if you think smart, you're not going to be able to have to repeat the work over and over again. So let's start shooting. Let's get out of the live video. And we'll start by shooting a shot right like this. Let's see. The first one, I'll kind of get my head down in here, see where I'm covering. It looks pretty good right in there. We'll shoot the shot. And I'm looking for something that's going to cover up in here. Does a good job there. Come around the front a little more. Shoot it again. I'll just move it and just keep moving it around. But that's a good one there. Look how that looks right in here. I would be able to use a whole bunch of, and having a few different highlights in there is good. It gives the thing some shape, and you don't want it all one tone. It's going to be lighter on one side, dark on the other, but at least we're using the real chrome. We're not having to go in there and paint with a fake paintbrush. That's not going to look real. And then, yes, you could add grain, but it's not going to be the same as the texture of the actual bowl. Come around maybe a little bit, getting a little more edge. Looks like we're covered pretty good, just to cover ourselves there. I think I make sure and you have a few more in the middle. That's real good right in here. Let me come around. I think we need a few more in the middle, where my hand was in the way. Let's try that. The middle is going to be a little tough. I'm not sure. I've got to put my head down here, see where. I'm going to go right here. It's hard at the angle. I can see it really well. If I raise my angle up, it'd be fine. But at this lower angle, which needs to match something else, I'm just not quite getting the middle. One more section I need. Just trying to get my head in here. We may have to build that from something else. That's probably about all we need. Just take a look at the actual shots now in the bridge and see if we look like we're covering enough of it. So let's open the bridge up. So if we start from here, this is our first shot where we have the white cards covered. Then we pull it out. We have the bowl, which we'll use for the background and most of the bowl. Then we'll come in here and say, we definitely have some areas here that look really good. And even if a little black actually reflects in there, that's still okay. And as I come around, I'm seeing almost every area. The only area that I'm missing is probably dead center, which I think we're going to end up having to just simply clone just a little bit and brush that off. I'll probably make a selection in Photoshop, and we'll just bring some of that over as we start to get the chrome. But this is way we are shooting images specifically to be solving a problem and thinking about what is the least, of course, what is the least amount of steps. But I don't mind taking more steps if the quality control is there. So maybe in this case, this isn't probably the least amount of steps wins the game. This particular technique, it's the best for the image. Now, the client's going to really appreciate the fact that they're going to say, well, wow, every time we ever shot this before, that's always looked like a black bowl. All of a sudden, you've made it look chrome. We got to make sure to hand you all, next time we have work to do, we're coming back to you. That's what clients want. Whether it's a big corporate client that you do over and over again, or it's the first time you're working for a small little client right there in your neighborhood in a small little area, You've got to be able to sort of approach these things as I can assemble it in pieces, I can be in control of every part of that tonal range. I need to know where these numbers are. Of course, on a scale of 0 to 255, we've talked about 0 being black, 255 being white, 240 to 245 is white with detail, so we want to have that bowl at the brightest area around in that 240 area so that we still have texture in the metal. Client's happy, we got problem solved.